Internet! Welcome to episode 239 of the Assorted Calibers podcast. The second minute podcast is a little bit for everyone. I'm Weird Beard, and we are on location in Uvalde, Texas. And with me is the most wonderful hostess, and hopefully, but we don't know at the time of this recording, the greatest voice of the Second Amendment, Erin Paulette. How you doing, Erin?
I am inordinately amused by the faces you make as you introduce me.
I do this every week. You just don't see them.
That's one reason why it amuses me.
I am an artiste. So we are in Texas.
Yes, we are.
And we should start at the very beginning with us getting to Texas, because...
Start at the very beginning. A very good place to start.
I definitely plotted Julie Andrews' assassination until my wife noted that when she dies, we're going to hear a lot more of her on the radio. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I will let her live.
Oh, like when Whitney died, and it was that nonstop Bodyguard song, which I'm not going to do because I have pity on the dogs.
Did you know who wrote that?
Dolly Parton.
Correct?
Yes.
It's a good song. Though Whitney's version is actually considerably better. But yes, so I guess I will start with my trip to Texas was actually relatively easy. I just got up at extremely early in the morning and got there, and I was very excited to meet Erin in San Antonio. We will get to that step in just a second. But I of course flew with my firearms, and so I went up, and as I've said a million times on this podcast and on Handgun Radio, that every single time I have checked a firearm, it has been different, and this is no different story. In that I went there, and I went up to the gate, and I said, I need to declare a firearm. And they said, you can't do it here. You have to do it over at the special section, which was like almost exclusively people that had like wheelchairs and things. There was like a bunch of groups that had people in wheelchairs. And so they're like, why are you coming in here? I need to check a firearm. And ushered me on. And I got there, and there was a pair, and it was very clearly the newbie and the veteran. And what was the name of the two guys in the car that got ambushed in South Africa? One was Lloyd, and Aaron's terrible at names.
You think?
I'm super mean, but yes, it reminded me of those two.
Gun, no, proper gun.
Yeah, she just kind of looked at me with blank stare, which I am very, very used to when I say I need to declare a firearm as I'm checking my bag, and then he went, what did he say? And she says, he's checking a firearm. He goes, oh, yippee! And I go, that is exactly what I needed to hear. And so they produced the proper form for me to sign to declare that it's unloaded. And then I opened up the bag and opened up my lockbox. And they asked if it's loaded, and then they asked if there was any ammunition, and I said, yep, but that's in a separate part of the bag. And he goes, I think that needs to be locked up too. I'm like, I don't think it does. And he quickly looked it up on the computer and went, oh, no, you're all set. And just pointed out, he says, oh yeah, I carry a Smith & Wesson M&P 9. I'm just like, this is in Boston. Like, this is the times they are a-changing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got groped, and then I got on my plane, and I flew to Texas. And Erin is making a gesture. Thank you, Erin. I will let you fill in the theater of the mind.
Cup jiggle.
And then and so I arrived and expected to hear Erin. Well, I told you I sent you a text message just before I left, and you were probably still asleep because it was like 6:00 in the morning. And I said, we're going to probably be about an hour late because they have to de-ice the plane because it was snowing in Boston.
Well, first, let's back up a little bit. When we were planning our trip, we had originally, you were going to get in at 10 something, and then I was going to get in like about 15 minutes later. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, that's convenient. You can just wait for me, and then we'll get together. And, you send me this text. And, I check it, and I think you texted me that you'd, whatever. Anyway, I'm looking at it, and it's like, oh my God, he left so early. It's like, do you have one hell of a layover? It's like, no. And then it occurs to me that your flight came in at 10 whatever AM, and my flight was going to come in at 10 whatever PM. And it's like, oh, yeah, that kind of sums up the differences in our sleep schedules. And we just assumed the other was whatever. And so I was like, oh, yeah, sorry about that.
And I said, that's all good. And I said, I'll go to our hotel, which was a bit of a hike. It was about 80 miles away from the airport. And I said, I'll take
right next door for Texas.
Yes, yep. And then I'll take a quick nap because I got up at 3:00 in the morning to get to the airport. And and so.
I mean, you get up at 5 anyway, you big baby.
It's true, but then comes the next part.
Yeah, so I get on the first leg of my flight that takes off at about 6:00 something from Daytona to Charlotte, and I get there like at about 7:40, I think, and...
PM?
Yes, PM. And the next leg of my flight was supposed to take off at about 8:20 PM, and as I touch down, I get a notification on the airline app that my flight had been delayed for 2.5 hours. And we weren't supposed to take off until, like, the time I was set to arrive, plus or minus an hour for time zone changes. And it was just like, oh, well, this is friggin' delightful. And, so I contact Weird. It's like, oh, geez, I mean, I'm sorry. I had got no control over this, and you were a good sport about it. But, yeah, by the time we arrived, by the time I arrived and you picked me up, it was somewhere close to 1 in the morning, which would be 2 in the morning, my time, your time too. Yeah, we're both Eastern, and then we had to drive like 90 minutes to the hotel. I mean, by the time I got to bed, it was somewhere like around 3 in the morning, and let's see, the rain safety briefing started at 9, and they said that it was like about a 45-minute drive to get there, so we'd need to leave at about 8, and so, I've got to make myself pretty, and it's like, math. Okay, I'm going to get about a 2-hour nap. And that's about what you got as well. And I thought I would be the tail end of a dragon. And surprisingly, I guess between adrenaline from anticipation and copious amounts of caffeine, I've been doing very well. But it's catching up to me, and when I crash, I'm going to crash hard. I am going to prang into the ground like a plane doing a nosedive.
That's why we're doing this in 2 parts, maybe 3. We'll see. We'll see how things go. But I think we'll be doing this in a 2-parter. Mm-hmm. And I suspect, due to our schedules, it'll probably be part 2. Will actually be the normal audio quality because we'll just record it from our respective homes. But,
yeah, because tomorrow, after the Expo, is going to be the red carpet event and the awards.
Yep, and there's no sense talking about it until we actually know the actual details of did Erin win. I think.
Of course you do, Pollyanna.
But yep, so we ended up getting up early and grabbing breakfast and then heading out to drive tanks. Mm-hmm. And which was a drive through the middle of nowhere. It is... Uvalde is a very small city, and then it quickly disappears.
I don't think you can call it a city. It's a big town at most. I think the population sign we passed was something like 15, 17.
Yeah, so... it is a small town, and it rapidly turns into scrub brush very, very soon.
And dust everywhere. Oh my God. I mean, my tennis shoes, when I got here, were a nice navy blue. They're khaki brown now.
They're pretty bad.
It's just, imagine brown talcum powder everywhere.
Yeah, my suit's gonna need to be dry cleaned. So we got to drive tanks. We got we got checked in. They put us in a Humvee people mover and brought us out to the range where we got the safety briefing, and then we pretty much almost immediately bumped into Runkle of the Bailey,
Mm-hmm.
and he is as nice a guy as we expected. We spent a lot of time with him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't want to make it sound like I think he was standoffish, but I get the feeling he's a little more introvert than extrovert, and I wasn't sure how he would do with you fanboying all over him. And at first, he was polite, but he excused himself to meet other people, and that was fine, and I thought that was all we were going to see, and we just kept running into him, and he kept talking to us, and very, very quickly, an establishment, very, very quickly, a friendship bloomed between you two, and it was just like, oh, you're becoming boyfriends. That's so cute.
He's such a good guy, though. It was really good talking to him and meeting him in person.
He's got a wicked sense of humor.
He does. You need to. Oh God, the stuff that he's going through in Canada. So we met him. I ended up spending a bunch of time talking with I forget his actual name, but the guy from Ordnance Lab. Oh my God, he's fun to talk to too. Mm-hmm. He's an interesting guy. I gave him an idea for a video. We'll see if it happens, but.
And we saw Brandon Herrera, the AK guy, and I basically grabbed you by the elbow and walked you over to make introductions.
Well, he made a grand entrance. He showed up after the first part of the range day.
Diva Fabulous late.
Yes, and he was meeting with people that he clearly that there were mutual friends, and so I didn't want to interrupt. And then Erin just quickly prompted in, "Hello, my name is Erin Billette. I am a big deal. Swish hair."
I did not.
You did not. But and then this is my associate Weird Beard, and we got talking, and it was fabulous. And then, of course, I also stopped him before we were during one of the range cold sessions. I'm like, "Can I have a quick picture?" Because my nephew is a humongous fan, and I knew that he would be jealous, mm-hmm. and that is utmost goal.
Mm-hmm. So far, no Matt Carricker.
Nope, not yet. No Matt Carricker and no Donut Operator, who are both people that my daughter has instructed me I need to have a selfie with.
Do you think Donut Operator's going to have the big peachy butt this time?
The big peachy butt. Oh, yes. I saw that video. Yes. I don't know. I don't know. It would be awesome. To have that just for the red carpet. Oh, but yes. And so, shall we talk about the range day?
Yes, let's.
Oh, the range day was excessive.
Yeah, almost overstimulating.
I would not say almost. I would say exceptionally overstimulating. Mm-hmm. Let's just say there were plenty of items with giggle switches.
Uh-huh. And there were some, well, I guess they were technically AR pistols. And the barrels were very short and very ported, such that they weren't silencers; they were loudners.
Yes, they were disrupting the fabric of reality as they were shooting.
Yeah, especially because people would dual wield them at full auto, and it was just the earmuffs. They do well. I mean, it's not that they weren't doing nothing. They were doing quite well, in fact. But still, it was just, okay, that's really obnoxiously loud. By the way, we need to do a shout-out to that gentleman who provided the Ear Pro, and I've already forgotten the name of his company.
Actually,
Mr. Kim somebody or other.
Here, I'll go get my Ear Pro. I'll be right back. They are Walker's ear protection. The Walker's razor were donated to many needy people, which is good because I actually forgot my ear protection.
Whoopsie.
I was planning on bringing it, but also at the same time, I didn't consider it that high of a priority because it's drive tanks. Uh-huh. And I've got to imagine that they are issuing a lot of ear protection to a lot of people. So I assumed there might be a rental counter, much like bowling shoes.
And these are electronic earmuffs, too. They're very nice.
They are extremely nice because, let's see, we were standing next to the 8-inch AR pistols with the massive muzzle brakes. We were standing next to a minigun loaded with nothing but tracers.
I mean, This is okay. I've heard miniguns before on film. First time I've heard one live, and it really does sound like a prolonged fart. Just like someone ripping a massive, juicy cheek vibrator. Just only louder.
Yes, only extremely loud. Yeah, and so, yeah, there was that. Exploding targets. What is it? Foxfire targets?
I think so. Well, these didn't just explode with a bang, but with a flash as well. I mean, there were a couple of times before we knew what was going on. It's like, was that lightning?
I literally thought that because, of course, it was, the weather was, it got a little chilly towards the end, and unfortunately.
It got a little chilly towards noon.
Yeah. But and you did not grab a heavier sweatshirt.
No, because when I checked the weather before leaving on my flight, it was supposed to be bright and sunny. And because I'd only gotten a 2-hour nap, it didn't occur to me to check the weather. And it was overcast and gloomy and kind of spritzy and windy. And honestly, that was great for most of it. But when the wind kicked up, it's like, okay, I'm in short sleeves. I'm cold.
But so it was very misty, and yeah, the little bit of rain sprinkling on you, and suddenly you start seeing just a bright flash coming from an indeterminate area, and it was these Foxfire targets, and I was like, I said to somebody, I'm like, I keep seeing an airburst, like what is that? Like, oh yeah, no, we're throwing up the Foxfire targets and shooting them like skeet, and so that was impressive. But and they had several really, really cool guns. Was that MP5 full auto? They had a 22 MP5. Was that full auto? Or I think it was a semi. Was it full?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And he had a Glock. What is it? The 44, the 22 caliber Glock. I don't know. Yeah, Erin doesn't have a Glock decoder ring on either. But but they had like the 22 caliber Glock, but had it with an auto sear on that one, and it was malfunctioning for the first half of the day, and then finally he got it working. I'm like, did you get it working? He goes, yep, and I'm like, I want to shoot it. Yeah, it is what is it? A 10 or 12 round magazine lasts about half a second. It is a very, very high cyclic rate, and it is the dumbest range toy ever, and I loved it to death.
I got to shoot a saw.
Oh, did you get to shoot that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, that was so cool. And what was the saw chambered in?
Oh, 300 Blackout.
Yes. That was the Dylan Precision group, who they had a thing where they were wearing white balaclavas and Adidas tracksuits. And so they were blue Adidas tracksuits, of course, because Dylan.
Yeah, the blue press.
Yes, and but yeah, they
one guy had his. I don't know if the thing was a balaclava. I think it was more like a ski mask because it looked knit. Yeah. But he had it rolled down, and it had like a fake Brownells brand mustache over the top. Yes. He didn't break character, as far as I could tell. He had that on the entire time.
He did. That was pretty awesome. But yeah, they had. Like, and that guy with the Brownells mustache was wearing cross bandoliers, and I got looking at them, and I went, are those 300 Blackout bandoliers? He goes, yeah, man. The saw's in 300 Blackout. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so, yeah, that one rocked and rolled. Mm-hmm. They had an AR that had, it was a full auto AR that was direct threaded to an oil filter. And this thing was getting just the absolute doors shot off of it. And you could still tell that it was still suppressing. And I'm like, how long before the interior of that thing gets burnt out? And he's like, this thing will go pretty much forever. And I went, are you kidding me? Yeah. So yeah, it's not like it's 100 or 200 rounds. It is like, no, that air filter, that oil filter lasts a long time. So yeah, and I'm trying to remember what else they had that was goofy, but
the air guns, the full auto air guns.
Yeah, I was watching you shoot it. I was expecting they had one that was 45 caliber, and so I was expecting a very large single shot because I saw someone touch it off, and it was gunshot loud. And I went, ooh, that looks like fun. And so I went to go squeeze in a nice, steady trigger squeeze, sending that single pellet down range. And instead it went bop. And I went, whoa. And it turned out that was a full auto 30 cal air gun.
Mm-hmm.
And
hardly any recoil too.
No, it felt about the same as like a 22 rifle in full auto. And you shoulder that up, and they had a lot of 3D mannequin targets, and you gave him a face full of 30 cal. That was an excellent grouping.
Thank you.
Let's see. Are we missing anything else? I did walk into the HK booth, and they had an RPG-7 in there, and they said, "What do you want to shoot?" And I tapped it. He goes, "Oh, we're not shooting that right now." And I tapped it again. No, I want to shoot that one. I shot this will be more for handgun radio. I shot the Canic Arms, I forget what it's called, but the all steel framed, pistol. And I've said before in handgun radio, I don't understand why they do that. And, I understand that now. It shot like a house on fire. Anything else? Or should we get on to the Mad Minutes?
More like mad 20 seconds. They were done. I mean, when a minigun shoots its wad, it shoots it pretty quickly.
Yes, of pure tracers. And they had essentially, it was supposed to be a 1 minute. I wasn't timing it.
Well, I wasn't timing it either, but it was over very quickly.
Yep, but it was literally everybody on the firing line, just as tight as they could get. And for 1 minute, everyone just opened up on it, and there was explosive targets downrange and
explosive targets next to cans of gasoline that made some very impressive and lingering smoke rings.
Yep. And so they did that, and then the tank rolled out, and I've forgotten the name of the tank. I can look it up, maybe. We'll see. But they touched off a round from one of the tanks, which also tore the fabric of reality. I mean, just the world blurred, dust kicked up. You felt it in your body.
I mean, who needs CPR, right? Just fire a tank. It'll jumpstart your heart.
It compresses your heart chest. It also compresses your head. It compresses your ankles.
But hey, the Walker's Ear Pro protected against that?
They did. All of this stuff. Yes, your body felt battered. And then, and then they had somebody fire off the RPG-7. It appeared to be just a tracer type round.
Yeah, that and the tank round, they weren't explosive, which I really wanted to see. I was expecting that, and they were shooting at some burned out cars at the end of the range, and I expected to see a nice bang. Maybe they were worried about shrapnel. I don't know. Although that was what, a good 100 yards away, maybe more?
I bet it was closer to 200. It was
but I mean, I don't know the explosive, the brisance of those shells. So, I mean, they probably were worried about pelting us with shrapnel, but still, I wanted to see that.
Well, let's just say, talking with Ordnance Lab, he was repeatedly saying that, like, he's been contacted by many, many people who've said that they want to throw a frag grenade for their YouTube channel. And he's like, no, I will not throw frag grenades, just because if all doesn't go well, people will be missing limbs. So, yeah, the explosives are scary.
Mm-hmm.
And even the explosive guys agree that explosives are scary. It's scary that they like. And then they did some helicopter flybys, which were pretty darn interesting, actually. We were expecting door gunners.
Well, yeah, I mean, when they talk about we're going to have the Mad Minute, and then the tank's going to shoot, and then the RPG's going to shoot, and then we're going to have the choppers, Weird and I both think they're going to have door gunners, and they're going to light up the end of the range, because that would make sense. And the helicopters take up from behind us, and they fly forward, and then they just disappear over the hill, and it's just like, oh, huh.
But they did, as we were filing out, they did two multiple very, very low level flybys.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool, but it would have been crueler if they'd had a door gunner. Yeah. I'm spoiled, I think.
We are spoiled. We live a charmed life, Aaron Paulette. So, I think that about does it, honestly. I don't know if there's much else to say. We had dinner, and then we promptly got the hell out of Dodge because we are exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else to add?
No.
I will say that Erin was looking very, very cute in your range attire.
Oh, thank you so much.
I was wondering what you were going to do so that you could keep your feminine charm, but at the same time look comfortable in the dust and the grime. And so no, it worked out very, very nicely.
Thank you.
And so that's a nice Operation Blazing Sword polo that you've got.
Yes. We don't have it at the store. I had to have this specially made. But considering I'm the HBIC of Blazing Sword, it's a business expense. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's your uniform.
Yes, it is.
So I think we are going to bid you adieu, listeners, and you will hear us after we find out that Erin Paulette has won the voice of the Second Amendment.
We'll see.
All right, we are back, and as you might be able to tell, our audio quality is much better because we are in completely different states, which is kind of ironic that the audio quality is better when we're both at home. But I don't want to bring the expensive microphones all the way on there. I've got a nice little microphone that works good enough, and it travels well. So you're back in Florida, Erin.
Mm-hmm.
We all arrived safely at home, but let's keep going chronologically. We finished up as we went to bed after the first night, and then we got up considerably more rested the following morning, and then headed back out to drive tanks, and that was the Expo day, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and so. I think the first person we ended up bumping back into was Mr. Kim French of GSM Outdoors. I don't know about you. I had no idea that like he was representing a massive conglomerate. I thought he was just
no, not at all. I just thought he worked for Walkers.
Yes,
and that's what he was doing. It's a gun event. Let's hand out some Ear Pro. Makes perfect sense to me. But yeah, we get there. He's got a lot of stuff, and it's not just Ear Pro.
Yeah, no,
it's probably it's both a good thing, but also a bad thing that Oddball wasn't there because. If he was there, he would have gotten a lot of information, but he would have monopolized that poor man's time.
Yeah, no, we got there and we immediately started we had talked about Walker's ear protection while we were on the range during the range day, and so immediately went there. We were looking at the ear protection and all that, and I looked over and I'm like, oh, there's SOG knives. Okay, cool. And I looked over. Oh wait. Some of these knives are cold steel. And I'm like, oh, what's your relationship with SOG and cold steel? It's like, we own them. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think one of the first things, I don't know if I said it, but I certainly thought it. You might have been the one to say it. But I was going like, wait a minute. I thought Lynn Thompson owns cold steel. Mm-hmm. And apparently he did up until recently, but decided to retire.
Yes.
And get a hefty payout for it.
Yeah, and so he was like, oh yeah, you should go check out our website and scroll through all of our brands. In case Erin, you haven't been there, I'll just throw that in the in chat, but it'll be in the show notes. But like they own SOG knives, cold steel, Walker's ear protection, True Glow sights. He'd mentioned that they own True Glow sights. I actually have True Glow sights on one of my rifles, and one of the cool things they do is they make a very, very budget friendly magnified red dot. So it's kind of like it's the next best thing from putting an airsoft ACOG on your gun. It's the it has a lot of the goodness that an ACOG has, but at the same time, it's not going to break the budget, and it's also not going to break. And this is weird. You're talking about the gun it's on is a 308, and it's doing just fine. So yeah, but oh man, it's just going on. Crossfire gear. I mean, it's just I'm not going to name all this stuff because it's like 4 pages of different hunting, shooting, and outdoors brands. So yeah, we'll be talking with them in the future because let's just say,
oh yes, we are.
Our relationship was formed.
He was just an absolute sweetheart of a man. And this was before we knew. And it was just, we were just talking like he was the ear pro guy. And, he came and talked to me and we had a really great conversation. And he wanted to know about pink pistols and blazing sword. And I talked his ear off appropriately. And I'm just going, what a nice guy. That's so cool. And then I find out, oh, really? He works for this mega corporation. Ha!
Yeah. And by the way, he was definitely more like, he's definitely also on that whole big tent idea that a lot of gun people, actually, I talked a lot about the big tent idea, that we need to stop being partisan and get the partisan idea out, because again, there's the people that bought all the guns during the pandemic were not all white male middle-aged Republicans, and
they already had the guns.
That's right. And the people that bought those guns did not buy them to turn them back in. So they may be lifelong left-wing Democrats, which historically speaking are the people that push the worst gun control laws. But I hope that sometime, and I hope that time comes very, very soon, that gun control or gun rights suddenly becomes nonpartisan and gun control just becomes passé. But yeah, he was great, and we got ogling knives, and we both walked away with a knife. I was just like looking at it, I'm like, all right, how much? What do I need to do to make this make this knife come home with me like right now? And he says, well, this is just these are all just display knives where I didn't I don't have stock like underneath the table or anything like happens at some of the trade shows. But he says, here, I'll mark the box. You come by towards the end of the day, and we'll make something happen. And so I ended up getting it's called a Crawford 1 by Cold Steel. It's a flipper style folder, and I am madly in love with it. And I was carrying it and playing with it all day. And I showed it to my daughter. She goes, "I really like the color of it." So that was that. And Erin, what did you end up going home with?
I don't really think you can call it a knife. It's more of a dagger, really. It is the Cold Steel Recon Tanto.
I also showed my daughter a picture of that one. She's like, it's like a mini machete. Yeah.
I mean, just the blade itself is 7 inches long. It really is a miniature katana. It feels so good in my hand. I haven't cut anything with it yet. I'm kind of afraid to, because it looks sharp.
Oh, I mean, if it's anything close to my Crawford, it is quite sharp. But it was really funny. Yeah, as we're sitting there talking to him, and we talked to him for quite a while, and then as we're talking, more and more people are coming and going, I want this one. I want this one. And he just pulling out his Sharpie marker and just marking each box, and just the boxes are slowly going down. But yeah, no, that was absolutely amazing. And there's a bunch of other people that I met and made contact with, but I'm not going to go through every one of them. We're going to be contacting a lot of them and seeing if we can do either segments with them or have them on like handgun radio. There's a couple of handgun specific ones that I think would be much more suited for handgun radio. So stay tuned to ACP and handgun radio for some of the other vendors there. But one other...
I want to sort of tease and taunt Oddball here, because I just pulled up the Cold Steel webpage for this particular Tanto, and this is the one that's made out of VG10 Sanmai steel. Oh, yeah. So this is the most expensive knife I've ever owned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now you can flex on Oddball.
I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it, because it's a combination of I don't want to brag and I don't want to get Mr. French in trouble. Let's just say that it was a very, very good deal.
Yes, it was. And so yeah, we will be hearing more for him And possibly odd. I even asked Oddball. I'm like, "Is there anything that you're interested in?" And he's like, "As a matter of fact." And I'm like, "Cool. We'll. I might mention that." But.
So yeah, we met a bunch of different people. The one that I want to give a particular shout out to is my friend from a gun rights policy conference of years back, Mr. Kevin Dixie, and we've had Kevin on the show before, and we're gonna have him on again because he's been up to some really awesome things, and hearing him talk, I'm nudging Weird. It's like, ask him about that. Ask him about that. That needs to be on the show. But when we were having lunch, we were sitting with him, and he was telling some really cool stories. But he came up with a term that I thought was really compelling, and I'm going to rely on you, because we all know how good my memory is, to help me with it. He had a really cool term for people like us, people who believe in gun rights and rights in general. Now, do you remember what he called us?
Oh, was it freedom centric or? No, I actually have forgotten it.
Yeah, that's. I don't remember what the second word was, but yeah, he referred to us, instead of being like Second Amendment activists or whatever. We were freedom people or whatever. And I'm sure when you have him on, you'll ask him about this, and he'll give a much better response. But when he said it, I got the chills, and I went, "Ooh, yeah, I really like that." So he's got a really good perspective. I'm looking forward to having you interview him.
I mean,
I'm too much of a misanthrope to do interviews.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he's up to some really, really great things, and I can't wait to see to hear more detail about him. But yeah, no, that was absolutely a great meeting. And the other one is, and I forgot to dig up the name of the group, but I'll dig it up for the show notes. But there was a company there that made really, really high quality steel targets. And
Grizzly.
What's that?
Grizzly.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, there.
I'm really surprised I remembered that, but yeah, Grizzly targets.
Yeah, and let's just say they as part of their as part of their exposition, they put a whole bunch of those things downrange during the range day. And given like 90% of the guns out there were full auto, and one of them was a damn minigun, and they had actually in the front of their booth a target with the minigun, which honestly speaking, I'm kind of surprised they did, because one of the rounds, which was 308 tracers, caught the target directly in the stand, and you could see the splash where it hit the metal, but the stand was still rock solid. It just had a very, very nasty scar, but it was also razor sharp. And I just I went and just touched it and went, "Ooh, that is dangerously sharp." He goes, "Yeah, we might want to put some tape over that." But I mean, that was the just like the walker's ear protection. And it was one of those like, oh my God, I was sitting through like 12 straight hours of just pure gun nut insanity and explosives, and my ears were not ringing at all. And if anything, when I took them off, my ears actually started hurting, just because everything just sounded so gentle and muted. and just suddenly hearing all the people that are around me, and a lot of them were shouting because they were wearing ear pro, talking to somebody else wearing ear pro, that just suddenly it actually became deafening to take the ear pro off. This was a shining example of how good these targets were, that they were just getting hammered by just people would shoot the gun and go through and shoot the gun. I remember we were at the Canic booth, and I believe they had a bunch of that has the AKs. Century
arms.
Yeah.
Okay.
There must be a relationship. I forgot to ask the rep there what their relationship was, but they had a bunch of Century arms stuff, including a full auto AK. And I remember at one point when I was there shooting a couple of the Canics, one of the guy came up wanting to shoot the full auto AK, and he goes, it's been shot too much. It's too hot. We're just going to let it cool off a little bit. And I remember shortly thereafter, as I was in the HK booth next door, seeing somebody dumping a bottle of water into it and then giving it to somebody saying, all right, it's cool enough now. So let's just say that these targets got rode hard and put away wet, and they were more than happy to go back to work. But Ian Runkle of the Bailey was looking at it going, ooh, I might want some of these targets for my club. I guess he does some 3-gun shooting, and
Ian walked home with a lot of swag.
He walked home with swag.
There's that. He walked home with a knife. Swamp Fox Optics had a raffle, and he won something pretty nice. Mm-hmm. In fact, he was concerned. I need to ask him about that, because apparently Canada is kind of uptight about bringing in gun accessories, even if they aren't firearms themselves.
I ended up talking to him a little bit more about that. Again, I need to have him on because, like, one of the key things I want to have him on is just to talk about Canadian gun laws, because
I've only gotten you his freaking email address. I've paved the way. What else do you need from me?
I'm going to contact him. I just got home. Erin, we have been wading through moon dust for 3 straight days. I was doing laundry. I did so much laundry today. So yeah,
Okay, so was he able to get the optic into Canadian land without issue?
The last time I talked to him about that was he was emailing somebody in Canada to figure out how to do it, but it's actually not the Canadian side. Canadians actually don't care about optics specifically.
Is it ITAR export rules?
ITAR, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's seeing what he can do. I'm sure he'll figure something out. He was not getting dejected. But one of the things he was saying was he was talking about buying some steel targets for shooting competitions. And they were like, he's like, do you ship to Canada? And they're like, we do. We have to get creative. We ship steel components. You put it that, because as soon as they put targets on it, suddenly Canada has a problem. But clearly they don't necessarily have problems with the with optics. So we will have Ian Runkle on sometime in the near future. He says he's extremely busy with all the nonsense going on in Canada right now. So yeah, he's not only is he doing these YouTube videos, but he's an actively practicing lawyer. So I will try to get some time from him, because he's such an awesome guy. So
he's so nice.
So nice. We really did hit it off quite well.
I think it is safe to say that he's now a friend of the show.
He is 110% a friend of the show. So that was really, really fun, really, really cool. I really liked actually the trade show side of it. Like, I was not going in as excited. I was very excited about shooting the guns, and I was very excited about the red carpet side of it. But the trade show was one of those, like, it's worth seeing, but it wasn't as much of a high point. But actually, it was really one of the more high points, just because it was such a small event compared to, say, the NRA annual meeting, or I haven't been to SHOT Show, but I have watched enough videos of SHOT Show coverage to know that it's not that different. It's just, elbow to elbow and packed in, and it was just great because you could just sit there and talk with the people, and it was really, really, good, where you're not feeling like you're, monopolizing their time and keeping people away from talking about stuff. There's a bunch of booths there, and there was maybe 100 some people attending them, and so it was really, really easy to talk for a long, long time with people about what they had. And so I really enjoyed that, because I love talking with people within the industry, because just the amount of innovation and the amount of, just either gun nuttery or it's I like gear, and I like talking to industry people, and I also like making suggestions. And I will just say that that a certain gun manufacturer that was there, I ended up talking to them about an idea that I have had that I've been frustrated with the industry on, and the rep there said it sounded like a really, really good idea, and then we got talking about other things, and then there was something said that could only imply that a really, really good idea might be in the works. So I don't.
Yeah, you're not vague posting or anything.
What's that?
Yeah, you're not vague posting or anything.
I mean, I have to, because I did discuss about it being on the record, and again, I was making assumptions on it, and so I don't want to be a jerk and tell out of school, but I will just say that I'll be keeping an eye out for a certain something, and possibly making some contact when that may come to light.
Okay, all right, Gandalf, keep your secrets.
I mean, I could tell you later.
I know.
So do we miss anything in particular? I mean, again, I could talk about everybody that I talked to, but instead I'd much rather just have them do segments and shows later on.
Yeah, that's fine. Met a lot of cool people, came home with some really nice swag, but nothing in particular stands out. I've got one thing which I haven't really analyzed yet, but the AR Takedown tool, and it's sort of a Swiss Army knife for taking apart and putting back together your AR-15. It looks really cool. The guy who gave the demonstration made it look really useful and really competent, but I mean, I've only just now opened the package and looked at it, so I've got to play with it a bit and see if it really is cool, and maybe this is deserving of a blue collar prepping post or having one of them on the show. But just, yeah, in general, I think we've covered it.
But now the next thing I want to talk about, which I was absolutely floored by, was what came next was lunch. And I will say that that I was, when the range day, I didn't want to say during the during the section of the show that we did in Texas, because it seemed a little rude for me to say that I was deeply disappointed by the food. Is they had some food trucks there, which was fine, and the food trucks were decent, but it was not gratis. It was food that you had to purchase, and the poor food trucks were horribly overwhelmed by the number of hungry people coming off the shooting range all at once.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was at least a 20-minute wait in line and then another 20 minutes for them to make your food. By the time you get there, sunk cost. It's like, what am I going to do? Go elsewhere, wait in line longer? No.
And so, so the food trucks were great, but yeah, it was super lame that how much waiting we had to do, especially since they knew we were all, there was a scheduled lunch break. And then the evening said barbecue. And we were in Texas. And I went, oh.
Yeah, there's certain expectations that come with that word when you're in Texas and other parts of the South.
I especially Texas, I wanted brisket. And I wanted sides and all of that. And barbecue was essentially hot dogs and hamburgers, which were fine. Like, I'm not going to complain. I was hungry, and then I was not. So
yeah, they were not only filling but tasty.
Yep.
But yeah, that wasn't barbecue. That was grilling.
Yep, that was a cookout, and it was all well and good, but it was not what I was expecting. Well, then after the expo, or there was a lunch break in the expo, and there were two lines. One was for a barbecue group who I actually didn't get their number, but it was. Well, somebody asked me how's the barbecue, and I said, well, I'm from New England, so I think it's really good barbecue. Maybe if you're from Texas or or Missouri or some other barbecue state, that North Carolina, you might be like, oh no, that isn't good barbecue. But as far as I was concerned, that was exactly what I was looking for. But the other thing they had, which I was floored. I took a whole bunch of pictures and sent it to everybody and has been telling everybody about it, was Dirt Road Cookers Pizza. And let's just say this pizza was I normally make my own pizza. I usually make 10-inch pies when we're having pizza night. This was an 8-foot pizza.
And I want to point out that it wasn't just one type of pizza either. They had several square inches of different types. You had the plain cheese, you had the pepperoni, you had I think cheeseburger was one of them. There were maybe some other toppings.
Yep,
I mean, when you've got an 8-foot, I assume it was 8-foot diameter.
It was an 8-foot diameter.
Okay, well, I don't feel like pulling up my geometry, but the point being is the surface area of an 8-foot diameter pizza is impressive, and you can fit several regular sizes of pizzas worth of toppings onto it.
Yes, it was pepperoni, and note their pepperoni were the size of a bologna.
Oh yeah, they were huge.
Yeah. So it was pepperoni and jalapeno, plain cheese, meat lovers, and then cheeseburger. And it's 8 feet across. And we asked them, the pizza, when it is done cooking, weighs 100 pounds. It is 100 pounds is the pan that they cook it on, and then the pizza itself weighs an additional 100 pounds. And it was so cool. It was a giant wood-fired, essentially custom oven that was made by the owner. And they have this like 10-inch wheel, the 10-inch pizza wheel on a long like pole arm that they use to cut it.
Their pizza oven. Okay, imagine the big portable grills that people use for cookouts and barbecues. Okay, or smokers or whatever. Now imagine that, but scaled up for an 8-foot diameter pizza, and there was actually a clamshell lid that they had to counterweight, and so it lifted up sort of like, the Pac-Man's mouth. And they lift it up and they lock it in place, and then a whole bunch of people. You lifted it. How many people did they use?
They usually go for like 4 or 5. Though we had, when they pulled the other pizza out, a lot of people weren't around, and so I think we did it with 4 of us, and it wasn't that bad, but it was still a little unwieldy.
Okay, but still, 4 to 8 people lifting this thing up, sliding it in, and then they drop the door down, clang, and then it cooks. That was an impressive bit of engineering just on its own.
Oh yeah. It's got 2 big fire boxes with electric fans blowing on them. And I guess it's got just a whole bunch of heat pipes all through the underside that just plumb the heat around it. And I mean, for anybody that's ever tried hey, why not, instead of making a sheet of cookies, let's make one giant cookie, and you realize that is a very, very challenging thing. And then furthermore, I mean, it was hilarious actually. I showed it just as a laugh. I took a picture the last time I made pizza for my family, and they're like. And the owner was like, actually, that looks really good. I'm like, oh, thank you. I noted that one of the keys to making my pizza is the first thing I do is I've got both a pan and a stone, cause I make 2 at a time. And, I put those both in the oven first and then turn the oven on and get it good and preheated, because when you throw a pizza down onto that hot stone, it'll cook all the way through a lot better instead of having a little bit of a soggy bottom. And he's like, yeah, we can't preheat this. I'm like, no, you cannot. He's like, yep, no, that's this one, because there was enough hungry mouths that they ended up making 2 of these 100-pound pizzas, and every last bit of them got eaten. He said this is as hot as it's going to get because it's already been in the oven. So though it took him like an hour or like 45 minutes to get all the toppings onto it. So it was pretty much air temperature by the time it got stuffed back in. But yeah, they got it down with all how the heat is piped in and all the temperatures, and they cook it at a much lower temperature than I would expect. They cook it at 450 degrees, which because he's like, otherwise it'll burn on them. So because he's like, yeah, you can get it. I can get it up to pizza oven temperatures, but it's so giant that I can't grab it and move it fast enough for those like seconds that you take between when a pizza is done perfect to when a pizza is overdone and burnt. And so they've got it down to an absolute science. And Erin and I can both attest that their pizza is really, really good. And,
oh yes.
And even though they're based out of Hondo, Texas, they are they travel a lot with this thing. So it's it might be worthwhile to follow them. So their link will be in the show notes. But yeah, they were. I told them, I said, I've just been shooting machine guns and explosives, and you are at the top of my list for one of the coolest things I've seen all weekend.
Well, I mean, you are a food slut.
I mean, I'm an absolute foodie. Yeah, we got talking about how the dough is made and all the key important bits. So yeah, they were more than happy to talk to me, because they're like, yeah, we don't worry about trade secrets, because if you want to try to build a competition to us, good luck to you. It's like I said, the owner is an avid welder, and so he built this oven all by himself. And yeah, it's not a small feat. And his helper, who's a long time friend of his, was like, yeah, if you can figure out how the heating works, I run this machine and I don't know how it works. So, yeah.
What's the name of that company?
Dirt Road Cookers. So
I'm checking to see if they have a website.
I just posted it in the chat. It'll be
8footpizza.com.
I was just about to say, as I was copying the URL to send it to you, I realized that yes, their URL is 8footpizza.com. And some wise ass in the crowd went, "Why'd you bring the small one?" And they said, "We have a 15-foot one too. We just didn't feel like bringing it."
Yeah, you definitely need to go to that website just to gawk at the pictures, if nothing else, so you can see this massive portable 8-foot tall pizza cooker in action. Just, oh my god.
Yeah. I'm not going to dig through their website too much on there, but hopefully they've got either that there's somewhere on there or a Facebook group that'll say where they tour, because like they said, they go all over the place with this thing, so they can travel quite a bit. So they might be at a festival near you. But these people won a Guinness Book of World Records. I asked, it was told to me by the helper, not the owner, and I was saying, oh, what is the world record? Because I'm pretty sure I've seen some world records of pizzas that were much bigger, and their world record is for the largest commercial pizza, because unlike the gigantic pizzas that I've seen, those ones were essentially
one-offs, right?
Yeah, one-off. They were. All the infrastructure and all that was constructed around the pizza so that they could bake it properly and do all that. And it's not a repeatable process. Meanwhile, they literally cooked 2 pizzas in about like 3 hours. And so, they came in, they cooked the first one, and then when that one was done, they made a second one, and then they went home. So yeah, this is one of the, but there would have been nothing stopping them if they had decided to pack another giant Yeti cooler. Like literally, it was a giant cooler worth of ingredients that made this pie. It was just amazing. But they could have been making them all day. So yeah, that link will also be in the show notes. And I guess it wasn't too long after this that we headed back to the hotel to get all prettified.
You are forgetting a very important story.
Oh, good.
And we're going to cut this in because in the pre-show banter, David and Xander wanted to know about me riding in the tank, and I told what I thought was a very, very good story, and I didn't want to repeat it. And so Weird is going to splice it in here. He may have to edit out one or two potty words because when I get excited, my mouth gets filthy. But it was a really, really interesting experience. And also attached in the show notes is video of Weird recording me as the leopard tank takes off like a frickin' sprinter. So it's only like about 8 seconds because that's really all it took to haul ass out of sight.
Yeah, there wasn't that much. I only thought about it in the last minute of I should actually just take a video of this because I was just going to snap a picture of you as the tank was taking off because this thing literally comes up on plane like a speedboat when it goes. And so I wanted to get that effect in the photograph. And then I realized, I could take a video of this. And I snapped it just a second before the tank took off. So it's not the greatest video on earth. Pardon me. I'm a podcaster, not a vlogger. But yeah, that thing was.
You captured the important stuff. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, you can see that as Erin says, this tank is quick.
Okay, Weird. So cue that story.
Erin, you rode a tank.
Yes.
I was hoping to hear some squeeing.
I think Weirdbeard will tell you just how much squeeing I was doing afterwards.
I may have already.
He hasn't.
All right. Oh, David, had you not come on?
No, I came on like 15 minutes ago, maybe.
Yeah, but I couldn't remember. I was telling Xander about it.
So, an army friend of mine says that particular tank has very distinctive who's-its and what's-its, and therefore it's a Leopard Mark I tank, I think he said. I know he said Leopard.
Yeah, I think it was a Leopard 2. But I could be wrong. I don't know shit about armor.
I'll dig it up on the Lederhosen.
I know quite a bit about armor, but most of it is World War II European theater armor.
Well, you are an armorer.
Yeah, unfortunately, they never let me work on that kind of armor.
Yep. Oh, well. I wonder if they upgraded any of those tanks to use modern engines.
Yeah, okay, so, Army guy says that looks like a Leopard 1, early version with a cast turret. The rear radiator grills are pretty distinctive.
And in answer to your question, Xander, assuming that wasn't more bait, generally speaking, with vintage vehicles, whether armor or otherwise, they try to maintain them as originally as possible.
Okay, so they couldn't just drop a modern diesel engine, in which case it would be a Def Leopard.
Yeah, I thought that might be bait. Good to know I wasn't wrong.
I am punting Weird's Giggle Box tonight.
With your tongue?
Oh, goodness, no. I know where his Giggle Box has been.
And who else has booted it?
So, yeah, apparently that's a German tank, and I, for whatever reason, thought it was, like, British or something.
I don't see a puddle of oil under it.
But yeah, so according to Wikipedia, the Kampfpanzer Leopard 1 is the German main battle tank in service from 1965 to present, designed by Porsche.
So you rode a Porsche?
Yes, I did, and considering how that thing took off, I can believe it. I mean, okay, I have not been around very many tanks. The tanks that I have been around have been stationary. This is the first one I've ridden in, so maybe this is different, but the conception seems to be, from the various movies, that tanks are slow, and it takes some time to get up to speed. The Abrams is perhaps the exception to that, because I think its cruising speed is something like 45 miles an hour, and that's mainly because there's a governor put on it to prevent the tankers from outrunning the infantry and other support forces. You take that sumbitch off, and it can do something like 70. But
I believe it's limited to somewhere between 50 and 60 miles an hour by the governor, but also the terrain has something to. So it can do that, like, we'll just say 55 on the Autobahn with the governor in place, but it probably can't get much above mid-40s off-road.
Anyway, the point being is the conception of tanks is that even if they can get up to speed, it takes them time to get up to speed, and that's, as the Fat Electrician taught us, the difference between being fast and being quick. This sumbitch was quick, and from rest, it came out of that like a sprinter off the blocks. And I don't know how fast it was going, because when you're riding outside, it seems a lot faster. But it tore ass. And the driver drove like one of the Duke boys. Because he was throwing it into turns, and I could feel the G-forces pulling me to one side as he turned in the opposite direction. And we're moving like an avalanche, okay? It's heavy, but it's fast. And we're going through sort of a cross-country route, and this is through the South Texas sort of scrub desert. And there's a lot of
friggin'
dust. I don't know if Weird has told you how much dust there was, but there was a lot that he made a joke about the Dust Bowl, and it was pretty accurate. But we were going so fast, we were outrunning the
friggin'
dust, let me tell you. And so we're going through this cross-country thing that makes it look like World War II battlefield, because there are signs pointing to different French towns, and there are replicas to make it seem like you're traveling through a war zone, like, shot up vehicles, and there's a machine gun bunker, and there's a crashed Jeep. And at one point we get to a thing, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it indicated that either the bridge was missing or destroyed. And there were plenty of watercourses throughout this area where we would end up dropping like about 10 feet on a paved road. It was sloped, but we would go down a pretty fair bit. Maybe it wasn't 10, but it was a lot. And these were places where it would have the thing that basically indicates, well, this is how high the water's getting when it's flooding, and maybe you don't want to try and cross then. And we went through about 3 of those. And so this one was one of those, only more so. And we are just traveling at, it probably wasn't full
stuff
off speed, but it felt like full
stuff
off speed. Now, and there's no bridge, and it's like, we're just going to nose over it. And my rational mind is telling me the guys have done this a bunch of times before. They are professionals. They know what they're doing, but the reptile part of my brain is going, the main gun is going to hit the ground. It's going to hit the ground, and we're going to prang to a halt and maybe even tip over. We're all going to die.
Pole vault in a tank.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing, pole vaulting a tank. And I was also oh, sorry, go ahead.
And so we go over that lip, and I don't know how much of a fall it is. I don't know how much of an angle it is, but it feels like when you're on a roller coaster and you've just crested the top, and there's that feeling. And the thing is, we don't even thud. It's just sort of a power slide. Just zoom. It's just holy
crap.
And so one of the things that that they told me before I got on, they said, you keep at least one arm on the superstructure at all times, because, well, they call me the Tooth Fairy. Ask me why. because if you weren't paying attention, you know, you're going to slam forward and you're going to lose some teeth. And yeah, that's exactly what was going on. And so when we go over that lip, it wasn't an impact. It wasn't a waboom, but it was oh yeah, there's a lot of inertia. And so we tear through the, not exactly mud, not exactly water, but just, yeah, we tear through there. And this guy is pulling what feels to me like some really tight turns with the tank. And then we trundle up the other side and we go around, and all of us are hooting and hollering, not exactly rebel yells, but we are, you know, yeeing and wooing and whatever. And by the time we pull up, I mean, it's probably not how it happened, but it felt in my mind like the tank sort of did one of those crisp ski snowplow stops, just and done. And it was just, holy fuck, you know, I'm shaking. I think the others were shaking as well. And then I get off and I just have to babble at Weird for about 10, 15 minutes about how
friggin'
awesome it was. And oh my God, you know, I appreciate, you know, you not going so that you could film me, but and we don't have time to wait in line. But oh my God, next time you have the chance, you absolutely have to do it.
Friggin'
Awesome!
That is great. By the way, Erin, while you were telling the story that I have heard multiple times before, I was scrolling through the facts about the Leopard 1. It was made by Ferdinand Porsche. Do you know who made the engine?
I just assumed it was Porsche, but
no,
I guess not.
And not directly, because he was dead at the time. But it was the company founded by Wilhelm Maybach, and that made me nothing to the non gearheads in the channel.
Yeah, I'm not a gearhead. I've heard of Maybach.
Let's just say that Maybach is a division of Mercedes that makes like $1 million cars. Like they generally take a Mercedes car and they wrap it in so much fucking opulence that the price tag suddenly gains a zero.
Huh. Yeah, while Erin was talking about the tank before she told the story, I pulled up the Drive Tank's website and scrolled down to see what they had to say about that tank. West German Leopard 1A4 main battle tank, designed to move fast and hit hard. Well, I think Erin experienced both of those in her story. The Leopard was one of the best of the Cold War. The 1A4 features a computerized fire control system and improved optics. Reaching speeds up to 40 miles per hour, our Leopard is the sports car of our collection, fast, smooth, and exciting. So
that's certainly how it felt. It really did feel like I was riding in a souped-up sports car that happened to be a battle tank.
Honestly speaking, it looked more like a speedboat going across sand because the thing went up on plane.
Yeah.
Like literally the nose went up and then the whole thing settled down higher than it was before.
Yep. That's partially the suspension to keep the ride smooth for easier aiming.
Yeah.
But 40 miles an hour over rough terrain feels a hell of a lot faster than 60 miles an hour on a highway.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're right there, considering my experience driving pickups across the field.
And then, as I said before, this was not a straight shot. This was lots of twists and turns, and the guy was just throwing into them like I'm some sort of professional race course driver thing. The analogy falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yes, as you have probably seen across social media, that was me in a tank top.
You were rolling your eyes. David's insistence on the tank top joke. I'm like, we gotta get you in a tank.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we grabbed a couple of pictures of you posing in some of the parked tanks, and then we got you in the one that was given rides. It also looked like they were taking some people to doing flybys of the gun range on the on the grounds, or at least I don't know. I did see somebody fly overhead with a rifle in their hands.
I mean, it sure did seem that way, but I don't know. One was a combination of we were running low on time, and two, it wasn't really immediate to me where they were. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see if we could have gotten a ride, or if they would have charged for it, or what.
Yeah, no, I think they were just doing the same as the tanks. They just you could just hop on, but again, it would have been more waiting in line, and we were already getting a little bit tight in the schedule. So, and it was also down in the parking lot. This place is huge. Like there's quite a bit of hiking involved in getting around this area. So, I mean, it's probably was several miles from the road once we got onto the actual ranch that this place is situated on.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also full of exotic animals. So there was also opportunities to go and pat various safari animals. So that was cool. I mean, it's one of those how often do you get when you're driving of the please don't let me hit a gazelle?
Yeah, one of the things you said was, yeah, it takes us 45 minutes to get from Uvalde to drive tanks, and the last 15 minutes of those are just driving across the ranch property to get to drive tanks, which is, sitting well inside the property of the Ox Ranch, which is already well off the beaten path.
Yeah.
This was seriously, out in the hinterlands.
Yeah, I remember you saying oh, it's about 45 minutes to get there. And of course, me being the good chauffeur that I was, I'd already, plotted the course beforehand. And I'm like, it only says it's about a half hour. Yes, it's a half hour to get to the entrance. And then, yeah, it's about another 15 minutes before you actually get to the drive tanks area. So yeah, then it was time for us to head back to the hotel so we could get all prettified.
Well, I mean, except for the hour-long detour to get gas.
Oh,
but who's counting?
Oh, all right, Erin. You're gonna make me admit to me being a bad. I was a good chauffeur in so many ways. But yes, I was also a bad chauffeur in the fact that, as I mentioned the other night, that I had to make an additional 160-mile round trip trip to pick you up from the airport, because why would I make you call an Uber? And plus,
I do appreciate that.
I was
Thank
so
you.
excited to see you too. It had been a long day, and suddenly
I was telling my mom today. It's like. And I mean this in the best of ways, you're like a family dog in that you're always happy to see me, and your eyes light up, and your volume rises. If you had a tail, it would be wagging back and forth. It's just, oh my God, it's so good to see you again. I can't stand it.
It's not that I'm strange. It's just everybody that doesn't interact with you that way is wrong. Erin Paulette is a big deal. If you know who you're talking to, you should also be excited and wagging your tail. But yeah, because of all that extra driving, and because we got back at almost 3:00 in the morning to the hotel, and then I was nervous the next day of getting us out to drive tanks in time, and then just coming home, we were just tired and spent and ready to just get home and get back to bed. I forgot to look at the fuel gauge, and as we were driving to drive tanks the second time, the warning 50 miles left of fuel, and I went, oh no. That's normally as I drive around Metro Boston and my own Ford Edge pops up that warning. I'm not concerned because there's about a gas station about every 5 or 10 miles. So yeah, you just find the most convenient one and stop and get there. Meanwhile, we're up in the high desert where there's no cell signal. That might have made me pucker up just a little bit, and I tried to keep my worries to myself as not to be a complete and utter killjoy. But we ended up having to take a bit of a detour to get to a gas station, of which we got to just in the nick of time. There was, well, I'd need to look it up. My Ford Edge has a 19.5 gallon tank, and that thing only took a little bit more than 17, only took about a little bit more than I think it was like 16 and like a half gallons, and so either that one has a 17 gallon tank, and we were almost to the bottom of it, or it was lying, and we could have gone a little bit further. But either way, we filled up, and then suddenly I was feeling much better. And then we got back to the hotel, and we could get prettified.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I simply had my off-the-rack Men's Warehouse suit. I mean, it was tailored, but it was just a standard issue men's gray suit, adorned with, which I am so glad I remembered, my Pink Pistols lapel pin, and I got actually from Justin Moon.
The funny thing is that someone specifically asked you about that pin, and you immediately had an answer for them as to where you got it.
Well, because Justin Moon of Car Arms gave it to me personally. Said, "Oh, you like 1911s? Here, take this one." Justin Moon is one of those people that, I mean, Car Arms, I think, is like the third or fourth largest gun company in America. And like every time I've seen him and I just said hello, like he'll just stop doing everything he's doing and just sit there and talk to you. And so, yeah. And he just like, reached in and pulled out, "Oh yeah, I got this auto ordinance 1911 pin. Here, you might want this." And so, yeah, I just as a last minute decision, I grabbed those. I remembered those pins and grabbed them, and I'm so glad I did. I've seen the pictures of me, like it really like dresses up the suit, and again flies my Pink Pistols colors and my 1911 fanboy colors.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what I was wearing, but I wasn't turning that many heads.
Well, to be honest, I wasn't turning that many more heads either.
You turned more than a few, and the vast majority of them were extremely gorgeous women. And so when they say, "Oh my God, you look so good," you know what? That's something worth taking to heart.
Yeah, I'll explain it in a moment. But yeah, Weird and I, we're having the lunch or dinner thing. We had to stand in line for it, and we're eating at a stand-up table, and I'm leaning forward severely so that I don't end up feeding my bosom and spilling food everywhere. And this absolutely gorgeous young woman, long blonde hair, I mean, she was at least an 8 just in looks. You know, I don't know anything about her personality, but she was sweet and bubbly, and so, you know, that pushed her up. And she just out of nowhere comes up, and I can't even remember specifically what she said, just because I was so overwhelmed at how this beautiful woman came up and told me how amazing I looked, both what I was wearing and how I was wearing it. And I was just, oh, it was so fantastic. Do you remember specifically what she said?
I do not. There was a couple of them, and they were just in awe of the dress and the whole setup and the coordination with both the color of your hair and the dress, just how good it looked on you. It was just general fashion compliments.
But yeah, the short version is, you know, when a hot babe walks up to you and says, "Oh my God, you look so good in that." It's just, it really fed my soul. Okay, so there's going to be a picture attached, and I've already sprayed it across social media, including the ACP Facebook group, because, well, we cleaned up well, and we actually make a rather attractive couple, I think.
Yes. No, it was a pleasure being your arm candy, Erin.
Oh, thank you. So what I was wearing the Elinor gown from HolyClothing in limited edition Huntress Green. And I really do like HolyClothing. And if you are into the Renaissance type of clothing, they have some things that are a little more medieval. They've got some vaguely goth, but it's more of a it's more of a fantasy look than anything else. But one of the nice things about HolyClothing, well, there are several nice things. I'm not going to limit myself to just one. They make sure to pay their artisans, is what they call them. They pay them well. I mean, I don't have hard numbers, but given what they charge for the clothing, I can very easily see that they pay them well. It's affordable, but I'm going to have to do this over, PayPal, PayPal credit, pay me later, whatever. They have a wide variety of sizes. They say that every single size is in a range from small to 5X. It will fit just about anyone. And finally, orders over $150, HolyClothing will donate 15% of that to a charity of your choice. And so when I ordered, I was able to select Operation Blazing Sword as the recipient, and it went through. They recognized us. I shouldn't be surprised all these years later, but still, I'm surprised. It's like, oh yeah, we're a valid charity. And so when I bought this for me, I was able to help out OBS, and that was very cool. And it's long and it's flowy, and it's just absolutely, I don't know if it's not really sexy, but it's sensual to wear, and it's very classy. Oh my God, we were so overdressed.
Yeah. Well, I had originally not planned to. I originally not planned to wear the suit. I was going to go, business casual. I'd watched a couple of videos of some of the previous Gundies and saw that pretty much the dress code was pretty much whatever you wanted to make it. And so I was going to just essentially wear like something that I wore to like GRPC, like a nice, polo shirt and a pair of slacks and things like that. And Erin goes, no.
Weirdington Elizabeth Beard, you are wearing a suit.
And I mentioned it to my wife because I first told her when we were booking the flight that, I'd only need to carry on. And then I said, yeah, I'm going to be bringing a suitcase because Erin wants me to wear the suit. And meanwhile, my wife had read some of the stuff about the Gundies and said, yeah, it says red carpet here on the Gundies website. So, if it's going to be a red carpet, you should look nice. And so the suit came out, which is good because suits are not inexpensive, and this is definitely not an inexpensive suit, and so really I should get it out and wear it more than just the occasional wedding and funeral.
Yeah, you clean up very well. You were definitely dapper and perhaps even dashing.
Yeah, well, I blame the Pink Pistols lapel pin.
Well, you were also very gentlemanly, and so, credit where due. Either your mother raised you right, or your wife beat it into you, but either way, you are a charming and considerate soiree companion.
Well, I've told you the story about my mother, and since you brought it up, I will recount it. Is that my mom insisted that a door always be open for her, and there was multiple occasions where my dad and I would be standing at the maitre d' stand at the at a restaurant, and realizing my mom's not there, and turning around and seeing my mom standing on the sidewalk outside with her arms crossed because somebody didn't hold the door for her, and she is going to stand there until somebody does. Doesn't take many of those before you realize that, you know what, ladies should get the door held for them. and then I marry a strong woman like my wife who just barges ahead and opens the door for her, so I had to beat it into her. No, you let me be a gentleman.
Which I think is one reason why we get along so well, because I like that sort of thing, and you, having been trained well, do that for me.
Well, I remember the first time we were driving somewhere. I'm trying to remember where it was, but yeah, I walked around to the side of the car and opened the door for you to let you in first, and you were just like, oh, I like this. And that only further encourages me.
I think it was when we had the Gunblog Variety Cast house for whatever NRA that was.
Yeah. Yep. I think it might have even been in Dallas. Isn't that right?
I'm not No, I don't know. I don't know at this point. That was in the before times. Weird. But yeah, anyway, you are a very, very charming and considerate date.
Well,
and so, if you weren't already married, I would be trying to hook you up.
Well, thank you so much. So now on to what we've all been waiting for, the awards ceremony. And so, yeah, we had food. We sat down. I remember getting the email before getting the email before we got there, saying that the awards ceremony was actually going to be pre-recorded and then broadcast live, scare quotes in there, the next day. And I'm just like, what are you doing? And then there was a bunch of technical difficulties over the over the course of the evening, and so it was one of those like, oh, this was a smart move. So, but yeah, you guys could go. I'll put the video in the show notes so you guys could see who won all the different categories. I'd like to congratulate Runkle of the Bailey. Ian Runkle did the one. What was his category? I'm actually looking at the list.
Breakout Performer of the Year.
Yes. Yep. Breakout Creator of the Year. He won that one, which is good. He was also in the same category as you, Top Voices of the Second Amendment. And he's like, if a Canadian wins Best Voice of the Top Voice of the Second Amendment, we have a problem. And so,
yeah, how are you going to handle this, Weird?
Would you like me to handle it, Erin?
I mean, I'm just amused because of the way you've been introducing me for the past month or so.
And I still will. Because Erin Paulette, you are, I will say, the top voice of the Second Amendment. Unfortunately, the Gundies do not agree with me, and that is because they are wrong.
Yeah.
No.
So as I said, otherwise, I didn't win top voice of the Second Amendment, and of course I am disappointed because I'm human, and I think anyone would be. Mm-hmm. But I'm not surprised. It is ultimately a popularity contest, as evidenced by me having to get people to vote for me not once, but every day for 30 days, and I'm just sort of inherently terrible at promoting myself, and I felt like such a nag. Please vote for me. I imagine it would be easier if I was producing content every day and throwing that out there, but that just doesn't fit with my lifestyle. So I of course congratulate all of the winners on their victories, and I do thank the Gundies for giving me an amazing experience because I got to do all of these really cool things, saw some old friends, made some new ones, and generally helped promote awareness of the existence of Operation Blazing Sword and Pink Pistols through professional channels. Again, there are a lot of people in the gun world who don't know we exist, and I have to explain who we are and why we are and what we do. And, I mean, my thing here is, good Lord, if the pro-gun side doesn't know who we are, the people who want gun training but don't know where to go, what hope do they have? So maybe at some point I'll stop having to explain to people what Pink Pistols is all about. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. But it was a good use of time and money, and I made a lot of memories. I'm probably not going to go back, mainly because, as we mentioned before, just the sheer logistical hassle. I mean, we fly into San Antonio, it's an hour-and-a-half drive to Uvalde, then it's 45 minutes to drive tanks, 45 minutes back. Next day, do that again, like twice, because we had to change for the awards ceremony, then another 90 minutes back to San Antonio. It's just, oh my God, that really took it out of me.
Yeah, it was a week's worth of a weekend.
Oh Lord, yes.
I want to say that the winner of the top voice of the 2A was Guns and Gadgets, who is someone who I've been following for a while. I don't know how long. It hasn't been years and years. I've only recently become aware of him, but I've been an avid follower. And then I got a chance to meet. We hung out with him quite a bit actually over the course of the weekend, and he is as gracious and nice and knowledgeable guy as he seems on his channel. There is no act, there is no persona on there.
When did we hang out with him?
When Kevin Tim Dixie's telling his story about lobster rolls.
Oh, that was him?
That was him.
Huh. Yeah. I clearly watch a lot of YouTube videos.
But let me just say, I'm scrolling through the 2A ones, and I'll just say that like people, not even people who didn't win, but people who didn't even place. Tim from the Military Arms Channel was there. It was nominated and wasn't mentioned. Johnny B was there, not mentioned. Liberty Doll, Reno May, Iraq veteran 8888. Collier Noir.
Yeah, let me just say how weird it is that Mr. Collier freaking Noir didn't even make it into the top 4. What the? I could have, first of all, I would have sworn he would have been the winner. Secondly, how did he not make it into the finals? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he is, I mean, I am a huge fan of him. And I met him at the Houston NRA convention just before he was hired. He probably was hired by Ackerman McQueen at that annual meeting, because it was shortly after that it was announced that he was doing his noir show for NRA TV. But I met him there, and he was just as sweet and gracious a guy as possible, and I absolutely love his work. And if by chance you stumbled on him when he was on NRA TV and said, yeah, he's nice, but he's not really my thing, give him a second look, because let's just say I really, really enjoyed his content before he was on NRA TV. And then after Ackerman McQueen parted ways with NRA and all of the NRA TV entertainers all got pink slips, suddenly he got really entertaining again. So I like his personal taste, not his edited tastes.
Yeah, he was able to be himself and not be what the people writing his paycheck wanted him to be.
Yeah. He was able to be Collier Noir, not representative of the National Rifle Association. And so, yeah, the fact that he wasn't even mentioned really does say that, you know what, Erin, it absolutely sucks that you didn't walk away with that trophy. You certainly were deserving of it, but at the same time, the man who walked away with it, I mean, he earned it. He's a great resource to the Second Amendment, and absolutely great voice for the Second Amendment. And he hustles and he works hard as well. So one thing, it's no shame to lose to Guns and Gadgets, but also, geez, the number of just absolutely amazing people who also just didn't even make it into the top 4 says that, you know what, Erin, it's the fact that we were there for the weekend says a lot about us, and that our hard work is noticed. So that about sums up our time at Drive Tanks for the Gundie Awards. There was a whole bunch of after party activities going on there, and we both were like, I am tired. And
well, there's also the fact that all of these activities were outdoors in the dark, and okay, for the people that were wearing jeans and t-shirts, that was perfectly fine, but we were dressed up, and it was just no. The nighttime safari probably would have been cool, but I didn't want to be wringing 15 pounds of dust out of my gown, and okay, night vision beer pong. Okay, beer pong has never interested me.
Nope, me neither.
If I had been into that sort of thing, then Nod's beer pong probably would have been cool. I find it conceptually interesting, but yeah, it was just not for me. Oh, there's going to be dancing. Great. I'm with a married man. I'm not gonna dance, so yeah, let's just go home. Yeah, we've got to pack because we're getting up god-awful early in the morning and have that long-ass drive, and it's just, yeah.
Also, pro tip, Weird Beer doesn't dance. I have a rule with my wife. When we are at like a wedding or some other function and there is dancing, she is allowed to ask me once and only once. So she picks her song and she picks it wisely. But yeah, and yeah, I don't want to be playing beer pong because I have to drive you back through the pitch black winding roads of the Texas desert with lots and lots of animals. Oh my God, the amount of wildlife that I saw on the side of the road while we were driving was outstanding. So yeah, we beat a hasty retreat so that we could pack our bags and get our butts to bed so that we could get up early in the morning. And again, checking my firearms was different this time. This time the lady kept telling me like every couple of minutes to open the case back up. Like I kept locking the case. Oh wait, you gotta open it again. Okay. Oh, you gotta open it again. Well, one time she did the thing that like the first time I ever checked a firearm, they put the firearm tag on the outside of the case. Every other time they've put it inside the case with the guns, which seems a little odd. But I don't even know why the little declaration tag even needs to be there. But yeah, this time it was like one of those put it inside the case, then oh wait, no, take it off, put it outside the case. Okay, there was something else that she wanted to see it one more time to ask me if they were unloaded, even though I told her that they were unloaded. It was just a cluster. It was fine. It got done. And I will say that I didn't mention this to you because there was nothing we could do about that. But
oh dear,
my plan was when we got there, when I left Boston, the forecast said that it was going to be in the 80s each day and then cool in the evening. And so I had packed light clothing to wear to the events. Except for the evening when I would be in my suit.
Mm-hmm.
And so
yeah, me too.
The idea is that I fly down in New England winter clothing and I take those off and I fold them up and put them away. And then at the end of the trip, I take them back out, I put them back on, and then I fly home. Well, except for the pair of pants that I wore down, I wore every day out to drive tanks. And the flannel shirt that I wore most of the time there, I wore all that, and I'm like, and they are just absolutely covered in this like fine moon dust. And I thought about all the stuff that goes on there, and I'm like, oh God, when I get patted down by the TSA and they run it through the gas chromatogram, what is that machine going to tell them? Because this isn't just dirt; this is drive tanks dirt. And thankfully, as I walked through security, I got one of those once in a blue moon joys, which is where they just waved me through the metal detector. And so I was through security like it was 1995. And I was very grateful for that. And then yes, the stuff went through. But it appears that you also did not encounter any trouble either.
That is correct.
Well, that is good because tanks.
But I was wearing, well, actually the only thing I was wearing that I wore at the range were my tennis shoes.
Yep.
So, I suppose maybe if I had run into a very conscientious sniffer dog, there might have been a problem. But that didn't happen, so no worries.
Yeah. But also I thought that we were also in San Antonio, so the idea that, oh yes, I spent the weekend at Drive Tanks probably would not have been a complete strange thing to say.
Yeah, one of the announcements, they were talking about how this was Military City, USA, so it probably wouldn't have been a big deal.
Yes. Oh yeah. There's a ton of military bases and stuff in the area as well. So yeah, I don't. I think we probably could have gone away. Plus, I have a friend who worked for a certain government agency, and he mentioned that when he was on a business trip in DC, some of the people he was with took him to Quantico, and he was shooting machine guns with them just before he went to the airport. And I believe he actually, I can't remember if he was in security or just before he got to security, found like a shell casing in his pocket that had fallen in there from ejection. And he managed to get through security just fine. So it was just a concern. But yeah, then, I got home and saw my wife and daughter, and my daughter had missed me so much, and it was so good to see her. And
did she forgive you for not getting a picture with Matt Carricker?
She did, because I specifically I was talking with Brandon Herrera, who, by the way, I mentioned that he was really, really cool. I talked to him a bunch of times more, and he's just like so down to earth and super duper sweet and nice. And just, it was absolute pleasure hanging out with him. And I saw him, and I just asked him, just said, "Hey, is Matt going to be here?" And he says, "No, Matt's not going to be here tonight." And I says, "Well," and I pulled out my phone and I pulled up a picture of my daughter, and I said, She wanted me to get a selfie with Matt, and she wanted his phone number." And he went, "Yeah, good luck with that." We both had a good laugh. But I said, the next time you see Matt, you let him know that this is what he disappointed. And Brandon had a good laugh at that. And so, but Donut Operator did come. He came at the very, very last minute. I didn't see him at any time before, but then as we were all sitting down as the award shows started, he came in and sat down. I went, "Oh, there he is!" And luckily, I caught him just before. I don't know where he was headed, but he was headed out. And I just stopped him real quick, and he was super nice. And we took a selfie. I said, "My daughter is going to love this." And I showed him the same picture of her. And he says, "Why is your daughter watching my videos?" To be fair, she's mostly watched Donut on Demolition Ranch. But yeah, it was a good time. And we got home, and my daughter did forgive me.
Okay.
And I've already shared some of my swag with her, and she is satisfied.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Did you show the picture of the two of us to your wife and to your daughter?
I did. I didn't. I don't think I showed my daughter, because I just showed her that one picture of me with Donut. But yeah.
Well, that's not nice.
Well, I will do that later. But she's.
So what did your wife think?
She thought we were quite the striking.
Oh, that's nice.
She wanted us to do she wanted us to do the red carpet. So there's a red carpet. You're going to look nice.
Yep. I like your wife. I think we'd get along like a house on fire.
Oh, at some point we're going to get together, because I know you've expressed multiple times that you need to meet this family I'm always talking about, and my wife has expressed the exact same thing. So at some point we will make it happen. The only downside is that, like, my wife, as much fun as we had, my wife would be bored to tears at Dry Tax. The machine gun fire would be too loud. The industry show would be too boring. And the award ceremony, I don't know who any of these people are. So, yeah.
Well, do you know who does know who these people are? Especially us?
Is it our listeners?
It is indeed our listeners.
Oh, you know what? Our listeners are wonderful, wonderful people, and also very dashing and good looking. But even more good looking are our lovely supporters on Patreon. And if you too would like to be a lovely supporter on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/Assorted Calibers podcast to sign up. And you can get an early release of the podcast, plus bonus content like the blooper reels, the ACP film tracks, and the ACP Mag Dump.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I've got a blog. It's weirdworld.com. That's WEERD world.com. And hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me at linktree/Erin Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Erin Paulette. All one word. And a special shout out to Tommy Smith, one of our listeners who never listens this far, and sent me a message on Facebook asking how or where he can learn more about Weird and his work for 2A rights. So, Tommy, if you listen to this far, this Easter egg is just for you. And if not, your loss.
And I don't know how far Tommy listens, but if he doesn't know about the music, well, he knows about the music at the beginning, and it's the same music at the end. And guess who wrote it for us? Nate Spencer. Thanks, Nate.
I got to ride in a tank, and Weird didn't. Our modes of imperious conveyance are assorted, and so is our podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night. I got to drive the mom mobile.
And you did it very well, dear.